outside
I
red.
thought that was, I thought we had a new sponsorship with Bubblicious. I was like, yo, they on their comeback right there, yo.
Yo.
Shoot.
I ain't even got to come back for that one, man. I can't say shit. I did.
Oh man.
My man say Bubblicious. Oh man, not the gum, man. Not the gum.
It's not bullshit, okay? It's real talk, it's facts.
What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of Debate with Bait, brought to you by Mo Serious Entertainment. Yes, sir, in the heart of Mo City, Texas. Of course, it's yours truly, the host with the most, Mr. Charles Baker, myself, as known on this podcast as Mr. C. Bait. That's my co-host, my brother from another mother. The guy that's got a lot of jokes tonight, man. He is killing me over here. Gerard Cole, a.k.a. Cool Cole, a.k.a. Rude Boy. Man, what's going on, brother?
We over here chilling, man. Just looking outside, man. It's raining. I heard y'all got hit with a tornado. I guess the U.S. is getting hit all over the place with this crazy weather, man.
Yeah, we had some crazy weather yesterday. You know, luckily over here in Mo City, we didn't have too much. But across, like, you know, the west side, north side, man, they got hit with a lot. Shout out to them, man. A couple of tornadoes went through. I don't think we had any real major stuff, but we got hit with a lot. But it would only lasted, you know, just yesterday. Today it was kind of cold, but it was sunny. Mm-hmm. But everybody good down here in Houston, man. What's going on in New York, man?
Always good to hear, man. We over here chilling, man. Just we haven't really caught no snow today. We got like maybe a centimeter or so, man. This is kind of weird for this time of season. It's been fairly warm, man. But other than that, New York has been great for the winter, man. Everything's going to open up normally up here again. It's a lot of a lot of violence going on up here, a lot of migrants being sent from Texas and other places across the United States.
You know, man, hey, listen, I can't apologize for our governor. You know, that's a whole nother topic. Maybe we can get into that someday, but I do apologize, man. That dude is crazy, man. So
he's definitely crazy, man. We try to make the best of it, but I feel like the government don't even want to give us no more support, and we need the places to house them, feed them, everything.
I know. It's kind of crazy, man. But before we get started, let's pay some bills. Make sure you follow Mo Serious Entertainment on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe to Mo Serious Entertainment on YouTube. All right, Cole, man, we got a packed house tonight. Coming off the rock and roll episode we had last week. Shout out to Mr. Anthony Denman, former Notre Dame player, former NFL player. Dropped a lot of knowledge on us last week concerning college football and the NFL. Be looking out for a part 2. We're going to do a part 2. I just talked to him last week on doing a part 2 about the NFL. Maybe around Super Bowl time, but really looking to get into the NFL. He briefly touched on some things. Me and Cole talked about it. Really thinking about letting Cole really spin on that to get into, you know, concussions and protocols. So be looking out for that episode because he dropped a lot of gems on us, but he's got more to drop. So we'll be looking for that. But let's get into it. Let's get into the episode today. NFL Championships games. NFC Championship game versus, well, the first game was the San Francisco 49ers versus the Dallas Cowboys. Actually was the last game on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, where the 49ers edged out the Cowboys 19-12. Me and Cole talked about this off the air. And you know what, Cole? I have to admit, when we started the conversation talking about Dak Prescott, you know, I was really, 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 really gung-ho about it being Dak's fault. But after I had a conversation with you, and I remember we were talking about, you know, I was telling you that I think Dak is he's a middle of a pack quarterback. And you were like, man, you think so? And I'm like, yeah, I think he is. But after that, you know, I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Cole might have a point. So coming off the loss to the San Francisco 49ers, a lot of the media coverage has been on how bad Dak Prescott played. In particular, I think the 2 turnovers that he had. And so a lot of media coverage has been on how bad Dak played. But, you know, talking to you and thinking about it, maybe rethinking. I want to ask this question on this show tonight. We start talking about the Dallas Cowboys and we're talking about what happened this week, them losing to the 49ers. I think it was a 19-12 victory of the 49ers. Of course, the game did take place in San Francisco. But you got me thinking, and I want to ask this question. Let's talk about this. The Dallas Cowboys have not been to an NFC Championship game in over 20 plus years. And again, they come up short again this weekend, like we said, against San Francisco. But let me ask you this. Who should be at fault? Should it be Dak Prescott and his inconsistent play? Or is it the Cowboys? And let's talk about that. What do you think? Because again, of course, I was very, 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 very aggressive in my tone in terms of, you know, it's always been Dak. And you know, my whole thing is he's been inconsistent. And you know, you posed a question. I said he was a middle of a pack quarterback, but you said, nah, I don't know if he's quite middle of a pack quarterback. So let's talk about that. Who should be at fault? Let's break this down. The Cowboys have not done anything significant in terms of winning. Of course, they have their expectations. Everybody wants to call them America's team, but let's talk about that. Who is at fault of the Dallas Cowboys play? Is it Dak Prescott, or is it the Dallas Cowboys as a team and an organization?
I think it's Jerry Jones. I think Jerry Jones hasn't really done a great job of managing the team when it comes to, you know, getting a head coach. I think he does a lot of he's loyal. I think he keeps people too long, like Garrett. Garrett was stayed there way too long. I think that his voice in the locker room is not, I would say, intimidating. It doesn't run through the locker room and give it, make me want to be like, wow, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna run through the wall for him. I feel the same way with McCarthy. I feel like McCarthy, he's stuck in between new age and old age football, and I just feel like I'm not saying it's passed him by, but I don't think he's what they need. I think what they need is a Sean Payton type of leader, someone who's going to take it by the reins, someone who's going to shut out Jerry Jones' voice, because I feel like it's always going to be, yeah, we have a coach, but I'm more scared of Jerry Jones. And I think that's the issue there. When they had Parcells, when they had Jimmy Johnson, and even to an extent, I think it was Barry Switzer or whatever, everyone knew who the coach was. Everyone respected the coach. And I felt like that's the way that the hierarchy needs to go. It needs to go player, coach, and then ownership. But it seems like it goes player, ownership. And it's like, do you really have to respect the coach? So I think that's one issue. In regards to the loss, I think that Dak sometimes tries too hard. And I think he tries too hard because he hasn't won. And he wants to prove everybody that, one, I deserve that contract. And two, I think that he just wants to be considered among the elite. So I think sometimes he overdoes it. But I also got to say, coaching got to reel it back. You have one of the best running games in football, but you always throw the ball all too often. So I think that was one of the issues. I think the defense played great. I think they got the best defensive player in football with Parsons. I think they got top 3 corner in the league, maybe top 5 corner in the league with Diggs. And I think the defense did enough for them to win. I just think Dak made a couple of mistakes here or there, but I could also blame the coach because I felt like if you'd have just ran the ball more, less passing, more play action, I think the game could have been theirs for the taking. But once again, I told you a couple of weeks back that I already knew 49ers was going to win. They're more physical. They have the best play caller in all of football, to me, in my opinion. He's very innovative. He gets you moving on defense before pre-play. so he could see what you're doing, and then he allows the quarterback to process the movement to know what's coming next. And I think that's one of the amazing things about the 49ers. And I can't put totally on, Dak Prescott, because 49ers was the better team. So the better team won.
I mean, I agree with probably 95% of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start with Jerry Jones. I agree with you. I think most of the problem is Jerry Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, not only is he the owner, he's the general manager. And I think in the past, I think the Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since 1995, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But the problem with Jerry Jones is this. Even when the last time that they won a Super Bowl, I think it was Jimmy Johnson. No, it was Barry Switzer that was a coach. And I wasn't really a fan of Barry Switzer. I felt like Barry Switzer kind of inherited the Jimmy Johnson's teams, the talent and all that. But he did win one, most, better than a lot of coaches do. But I believe that Jerry Jones doesn't know how to be a general manager. And what I mean by that is, I think he has too much influence on what goes on in the roster. And of course, I can't tell him that. He's the owner. That's his team. He can do whatever he wants to do with it. But it's going to show through all these years with Jerry Jones, it's like we haven't won a Super Bowl. They haven't even been to an NFC championship game since the 90s. And so for me, I wish Jerry Jones would step back and go, you know what? Out of all the changes that I'm making, the personnel, the coaches, the players, the common denominator of us not getting to the Super Bowl has been me, And so it's kind of like, I don't know if Jerry Jones does that, or he thinks it's something that he thinks it is something else. But I agree with you 100% on that. I think it's Jerry Jones. I think Jerry Jones, I would like for him, if I was a Cowboys fan, is to be an owner, go back in the box, hire a GM, and hire a GM that, like a Sean Payton, like you said earlier, a Sean Payton type of coach that will have that relationship with Sean Payton and get out of the way. Let those guys do their job. I think that's the reason why Parcells didn't stay. Parcells was another good coach. He got him to the playoffs, but, I think it ended up being, and I could be wrong on this, I'm taking a guess, but I think it ended up being that Parcells was like, man, Jerry Jones just has too much to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm recommending this. I know how to win. And, Jerry Jones is going to do what he's going to do. So I agree with you on that. Excuse me.
It's like a contrast of styles. Like when you think about it, if you're a basketball coach and you want to play up tempo, but then you give me three centers and
Exactly.
a point guard that's like Mark Jackson who wants to walk it up, how am I going to play up tempo ball? So
right, and it doesn't, and
it does.
Right, and it doesn't seem like that he has the. And I could be wrong. I'm reaching on this, but I'll go out and say it. It doesn't seem like he has that relationship with his head coach to where they're working together. Okay, hey Jerry, can you get this for me? Okay, let's think about this, think about that. It just seems like it's all Jerry's world, just like the stadium. It just seems like everything that goes on as far as personnel, Jerry Jones is in on it. And I think most people, it's hard to be in that situation because he's the owner. And it's like, hey, Jerry, the common denominator to us not winning in the last 20-something years has been you. Everybody else has been changed. It's been you, and how do you tell the owner that? But to speak to your other point about Dak Prescott, excuse me. After me and you talked, I rethought about it and I'm like, you know what? And I saw this I thought about this. I saw this on another show on Fox, but really with Dak Prescott, man, like he's been doing this for the past 7 years where he'll show you stretches where he looks great and then he'll turn the ball over. And so, the media always blames Dak for the Cowboys for their losses. But I want to think about this, and I'm going to bring this to you tonight. So this guy, I can't think of the name of the guy. He was on Fox, but he made a very good comparison I want you to think about. And I put it in the notes. But Dak Prescott coming to the Dallas Cowboys, of course, he signed a big contract not too long ago. The expectations, playing quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. It's kind of like the New York Yankees. You expected to win, and you got an owner that's looking to spend aggressively to make that happen. It's not that much building a team through, starting over or anything like that. It's like, get the high money guys, bring them in, bring them in and let's win now. But the Dallas Cowboys, much like the Detroit Lions, Dak Prescott, much like, let's say, Matthew Stafford. Let's talk about Matthew Stafford when he was in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Number 1 overall pick, went to the Detroit Lions. For years and years and years, he played for Detroit, and he took a lot of the blame for Detroit not making the playoffs. Fast forward a year or two ago, Matt Stafford goes to the Los Angeles Rams. Mm-hmm. Goes to the Rams. And what do the Rams do? They give him 2 good receivers. They build a great, some people say, solid offensive line. They give him a stable of running backs. They build, I won't say a great defense, but a pretty good defense. Mm-hmm. And they go out and get Odell Beckham, and then they go out and get Von Miller. And what happens to Matt Stafford? He wins the Super Bowl, right? Wins the Super Bowl. And now, me and you probably agree, or most people would agree, that Matt Stafford was probably an average quarterback when he was at Detroit, right? I mean, he took a lot of blame for, Detroit not going nowhere, but we'll say average to below average quarterback, right?
I wouldn't agree with that. I think that's where we would disagree. I always thought that Matthew Stafford was one of the top 10 in the league. Okay, all right. Well, that even works it even better. One of the top 10 in the league, all right? I don't know if his numbers were that much better than Dak, but let's just say that. Let's say he was a top 10 quarterback, but you can agree that he took a lot of the blame in Detroit. But when he goes to the Rams, right, he wins the Super Bowl. And that's when it made me start to think, when I look at the Dallas Cowboys in particular, when I look at that game Sunday, all right, I think Dak ended up throwing for like 200-something yards with 2 interceptions. And I say to myself, looking at his numbers, of course, he led the league in interceptions this year. He had 15 interceptions in 12 games. He was hurt. Mm-hmm. 12 in QBR. But let's look at Sunday. Sunday, man, other than CeeDee Lamb had a monster game. Think about this, Gerard, and think about what I'm saying in terms of when I'm talking about, I use the comparison of Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. CeeDee Lamb had a monster game against the Niners. Michael Gallup, which is the other receiver, you know how many catches he had on Sunday? 0. Noah Brown, the other wide receiver, one of the other wide receivers for the Cowboys. You know how many catches he had? 2. T.Y. Hilton, Lord Jesus. How old is T.Y. Hilton? He's been in the league for years.
Yeah, I remember he used to tear us up with the Colts, the Texans. He had 1 catch, okay? Not to mention the running back, which is, I think it was Pollard. He ended up going out with an injury, right? Mm-hmm.
First half, he took his fibula.
Right. So when I think about that, I'm bringing this up because me and you had that conversation, and you was like, man, I don't think he as bad as you making him. It really made me start to think the difference when I use that comparison to Matthew Stafford. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott is the same player as Matthew Stafford, but I'm saying this: Dak Prescott, much like Matthew Stafford, is taking a lot of the blame for the Cowboys losing. Mm-hmm. However, when Matt Stafford went to an organization like the Los Angeles Rams that was willing to put talent around him, that was willing to win at all costs, even when they added a stable of running backs, good receivers, a stout defense, they even decided to add Odell Beckham. They even decided to add Von Miller, which was a big pick. But that was an organization. When you talk about Jerry Jones, we talked about Jerry Jones, but the difference is the Rams were willing to build a team around Matt Stafford. And what the Rams were saying was, we're not going to put it all on our quarterback to try to win everything.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't, much like the Detroit Lions, not in the same way. But when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, much like the Detroit Lions, they have not won anything significant within the last 27 years. And when I say significant, I'm talking about the Cowboys' expectations, Cowboy Nation. You know, they always saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl. This is the year that we're going to do it. America's team.
Mm-hmm.
They have not done anything significant within the last 27 years, just like the Detroit Lions. The only difference is Detroit has not gone to the playoffs, Dallas has, but they have not had any success. And so it makes me ask the question, is it really Dak Prescott? Because at the end of the day, Dak Prescott is not doing nothing that he hasn't done in the last 7 years. You know, he's a I still believe he's a middle of the pack, above average quarterback. However, and hear me out on this, Cole, how many quarterbacks would you say in the league can actually win or go to an NFC championship, let alone a Super Bowl, with the team that the Cowboys has? The Cowboys get a lot of ratings, but I don't think they're that good. I just named off the numbers of the receivers this year, and I'm saying to myself, when Pollard went down, they were pretty much done, you know? And just to talk about the receivers, I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but I mean, didn't they miss Amani this Sunday? Was it the guy that they let go? They let walk, the kid from Alabama, the other receiver. I can't think of his name right now. I can see
Armani Cooper.
Yeah, Amani Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you look at those other receivers I just named, they let Cooper walk, and then the running back gets hurt. And let's be honest, Ezekiel Elliott, he may be done. He may be done. You got a stout defense that played well, but I don't know if it's Dak Prescott versus it's Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. You know, like, you got an organization. I go back to that comparison with the Rams, who went all out for Matthew Stafford. Now, the bottom line is this. There's maybe 2 quarterbacks in the NFL who can actually go out there and win the game with little to no help. And
I would say 4.
Huh?
I would say 4.
Maybe 4. Maybe 4. I mean, we got Mahomes. But even Burrow, Cincinnati built that team around Burrow. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
he's elite, though. He's an elite quarterback.
He is, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm just saying, other than Mahomes and maybe Rodgers, and when we even seeing Rodgers, you know, he's starting to get older.
I wasn't going to put Rodgers in my list. I was actually going to say Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Burrow. I think those 4 could go on any team and win.
Okay, but do you think that Josh Allen could go to the Cowboys with the team they got and take them to the Super Bowl?
I think he could, because he's more versatile. I think that he's not going to run.
All right, well, regardless, we can agree on this. Those type of guys don't come around.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So my point is this: Dak Prescott, much like a lot of the quarterbacks in the league, a larger percentage, are guys that can make plays. They're not going to necessarily lose you a game, but they need help to win. And I'm saying, I don't think the Dallas Cowboys, i.e. Jerry Jones, have done a good job of putting a good team around him. Now, some people say you're making excuses for him. Yeah, he turned the ball over. He does turn the ball over. He led the league in interceptions. But at the end of the day, like I go back to my comparison with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was a great he's a good quarterback. Took a lot of the criticism, but once he got with a team that decided to put some, players around him, he wins a Super Bowl. And so I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys and I'm looking at Jerry Jones. I'm like, okay, CeeDee Lamb did his thing. The other 3 receivers didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. The
Um,
tight end is solid.
right. The tight end is solid, but he didn't do nothing.
The
When the running
offensive
back,
line suspect.
yeah, when Pollard went down, of course, Zeke is not what he used to be. You had a defense that still, despite the loss, held them to 19 points. And I'm saying to myself, well, Dak is probably going to turn the ball over because, for one, that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
But for two, he probably was looking at CD Lamb the whole time. And so they knew that they were going to pick him off, the 49ers. And so
Yeah.
I'm saying to myself, the Dallas Cowboys, just like you said with Jerry Jones, that team is not that good. They're not good. They don't have, it's not built to win a Super Bowl. So I don't think it's fair that Dak Prescott gets all the blame.
I'm agreeing with you. I actually personally think he's a top 10 quarterback. And I think that, like, I tier him in the same tier as I put Carr, Derek Carr. I put in Kirk Cousins.
Right.
I put in maybe Tua. Like, he's around that tier. I don't think that he's up there with the Rodgers,
Right.
with maybe Tom Brady might have fell back. So maybe you might even throw
I
Tom
think
Brady.
Brady is in that range too now.
Yeah, he's in that
I
range
think he
now.
used to be in that top range, but I think now, because of age and, his lack of mobility, he's still in that range now, right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with Dallas, like you said, Dallas needs a better team. You're not gonna win nothing when you add in T.Y. Hilton as a game changer going into the playoffs. T.Y. Hilton hasn't done anything with the Colts in how many years?
Exactly.
So these stopgaps, man. Like, and I just feel like these owners being cheap. I also think they need to deal with this salary cap and start raising it more, because they're trying to hoard all this money. To me, they're billionaires. All these owners are billionaires, making a lot of money off these athletes, and they could raise the salary cap and start giving out these guaranteed contracts and spending more money to get better players. So that's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not taking nothing away from Matthew Stafford, and I'm not taking nothing away from the 49ers. I mean, shout out to the 49ers. I think they got a legit chance to go to Philadelphia. Now, I don't think they'll win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did win. But I mean, the Cowboys, I just think it's easy for everybody to put everything on Dak Prescott because he's a quarterback. But a lot of the criticism needs to go to Jerry Jones and that organization. I mean, I just gave you the numbers of the receivers. They did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And you had a chance to win, but then when Pollard went down, I mean, who else could you depend on? CD Lamb? That's it.
Not just that, I agree with you, because you got to think about it like this. You look at Matthew Stafford, that when he went over there. Now look at him when they took away Odell Beckham.
Exactly.
How average he looked as a quarterback. Look when they tried to add a cheap option by bringing over what's his name from the Chicago Bears.
Exactly.
Allen Robinson, who's towards the downside of his career, he ain't creating a lot of separation. Now Stafford's looking weaker, but you also got to look at the offensive line. You got to look at the offensive line where it's not performing. You see Stafford come down to his level of play come down. You see Dak Prescott, his level of play come down with his offense. There's only maybe two quarterbacks, the ones that I told you were the top four. Burrow,
that's what I'm saying. That's my point.
Burrow went to the Super Bowl last year with a horrible offensive line, but he's just clutch. He knows how to make the quick read and make the reaction. Then you have your Lamar Jackson, who never really had an offensive line, never really had receivers, and he doesn't get his credit for what he does to carry his teams.
Exactly. And again, that's my point. I think it's only, like you said, only a few of those guys can make it happen with bare minimum. And even then, like, it's still hard to pull that off. But for your, and again, you may be right on Dak being top 10. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but he's not a bad quarterback,
Definitely not bad.
But for him, it's kind of like, for most quarterbacks in the NFL, you're not going to be able to do it with
Here's
the
a question I'll pose to you. This is how you know if he's top 10 or not. If you put him on that San Francisco 49ers team this week to play the Eagles, do you think they win? You know they win. It wouldn't even be a guess.
I don't know. The only thing, they definitely have a shot to win if he's on that team. Yes, they have a shot to win. And I'm not saying it to bring him down. It's just the fact that I just think the Eagles. Well, let me rephrase it. Now that I think about it, they definitely have a shot. I think they definitely have a shot to win with Dak Prescott at the quarterback. The only thing that concerns me about Dak, if he was on that team, is the turnovers, but he may not turn the ball over if he's on a better team.
He wouldn't.
So he definitely has
better coaching.
Right. He definitely has
and a better offensive line and a run game.
Right. Because even that kid, Purdy, I mean, he's doing well, but I think Shanahan is doing a great job. They've got a great offensive line in front of them. They got probably arguably, other than Kelsey, the best tight end in the game with Kittle. They got a stout defense. And so they've made it to where, and even then, they've got other pieces in place to where everything is not solely on him to go win the game.
And that's what I was going to say. I think that what happens with Dak is that he presses. He knows that he doesn't have a lot of talent next to him. He knows he has to make big plays. He knows the shoulder of the offense is on him. Plus the fact that I still believe he feels like he has to prove himself. I still believe he thinks in the back of his mind, Dallas fans are thinking, Dad, Cooper Rush was winning with the squad, you know? And I know that he was probably thinking in the back of his mind that people probably wanted Cooper Rush in there. And so I see from his perspective where he's pressing. But when you're on a better team, you don't press. There's nothing to press for because you know when you're not performing, you got person A, B, or C, or D who's going to step up and take over that role.
Now, let me ask you this. Who do you think San Francisco can go and win in Philadelphia? Are you picking San Francisco to win?
I think San Francisco, on every level of the game, is the best team. Right now.
Right.
Remember, I told you, if they had to play the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that would be a blowout in the championship game. I think Kansas City's going to lose to Cincinnati. I think that's going to be a good matchup between San Fran and Cincinnati, because that's my prediction. I told you at the beginning of the year, I love Jalen Hurts. He's my MVP candidate. I personally thought they would go on to win the championship. I want them to go on and win the championship, but I'm trying to put all my biases aside. And looking on paper, no one has a better offensive line than them. No one has a better defensive line than them. That linebacker core is fast, strong, smart, instinctual, can cover in coverage. Those corners are tough, can tackle, can hit. They're physical. That special teams unit is tough. And then you got the toughest receiver in the game who plays running back, tailback, and receiver, and blocks. Then you got McCaffrey, who's probably top 3 running backs in the league, if not the number 1 running back at times.
Ooh.
McCaffrey. He's the top 3 running back in the league. Top 3 running back in the league. If you could
definitely debatable.
If you could name some other running backs who are better than him, please tell me. But he catches and runs.
Okay. Let's say this. Is it okay? I don't know about running back. Can we say multi-purpose back?
No, I say running back because he can run the ball too. And I think you're probably going to get a heavy dose of that against Philly. You're going to see it.
So you taking him over Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry, I won't take him over. And the only reason why people won't take him over a lot of people is because he's been injury prone over his career. But no one's taking anyone over Derrick Henry. I'll probably take him over Najee in Pittsburgh because I don't think Najee's as versatile. I'll probably take him over. Well, him and Barkley's a toss-up. And if Breece Hall wasn't injured, it'd be a toss-up with Breece Hall. Those are the only 3 players that I feel like can compare.
Oh,
he's better than Kamara. He's better than Robinson. He's better than Zeke. He's better than Pollard. There's no running back that you can really tell me. Delvin Cook, he's probably more versatile than Delvin Cook.
That's why I say I'm with you as far as what he does as a multi-purpose back, but running back, to say he's a top 3 running back in the league, that's a stretch. I mean, I'll give you this. For what San Francisco has got going right now, what he's worth to that offense, maybe I could see that.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. They don't make running backs like him since Marshall
Falk.
Faulk
Right, Falk.
and Edgerrin James. These are 4-down backs who do whatever. You can line them up in the slot. You can even watch McCaffrey line up in the slot. He run better routes than them receivers.
But that's what I'm saying. That's not a running back. That's a multi-purpose back. That's what I'm saying.
But
When you talking about running back, I'm thinking like Derrick Henry. I'm thinking like hand the ball off to your horse. Christian McCaffrey does so many other things other than just run the ball. He catches, he blocks, he runs routes.
Do you realize that he's had 1,000-yard seasons as a catcher and a runner in the same?
That's what I'm saying. Multi-purpose. Exactly. That's my point. A multi-purpose back. I don't strictly see him. It's like this. Barry Sanders versus Marshall Faulk. Now, one is a prototypical tailback that you hand the ball off and he's getting so many carries. And the other does, not only does he run the ball, he runs routes, he's in the slot, he blocks, he may do, trick plays, he could do kickoff. That's a multi-purpose back. I think Christian McCaffrey is more of the Marshall Faulk versus the Barry Sanders.
So you're saying he's less of a running back?
Not saying he's less of a running back, but I don't see him solely as a running back.
I think that makes you more valuable.
It does. I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it. Again, I'm not knocking it, but it's just it's perspective. Like, I don't see him as just merely a running back. Like, a running back to me is Derrick Henry, somebody you hand the ball off to, and that's his primary function in that offense. Whereas Christian McCaffrey is more valuable because he does more things, but I don't solely see him as a running back. I see him as a multi-purpose. I see him as a running back.
I get the perspective.
A receiver. So to say top 3 running backs in the league, I don't know.
So the way you view him is like the way you view a LeBron. You don't see him as a guard. You don't see him as a forward. You don't see him. You see him as a basketball player.
Right. Because he can do so many different things. I don't think about Christian McCaffrey being a running back. I think about him being a multi-purpose back. I think about him being Marshall Faulk. I think about him being like a Devin Hester at times. You know what I'm saying? Even though that's probably not a good, but you could line Devin Hester ran punts back. Devin Hester ran kickoffs back, but he also played running back.
Like a Dave Meggett of the Giants.
Exactly. That's what I see Christian McCaffrey as.
So that's the same way you see kind of like Barkley then.
Barkley,
because I think they're exactly the same.
I don't know. Maybe. I haven't seen enough of Barkley. I think Christian McCaffrey does more. They utilize him more. I think the Giants are starting to use Barkley more. But we've got a body of work of Christian McCaffrey being a multi-purpose back. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, because the way I would argue it, I would say that, Henry's the best running back when it comes to running between the tackles.
Exactly. That's my point.
Who's the best running back?
Exactly.
Overall, I probably would have to go with a Barkley, a Breece Hall, or what you call it, because they're more versatile than Henry. But if you just talk about strictly running,
that's what I'm thinking.
Henry's the best runner. Henry's the best runner, but he may not be the best running back. If that's what you're trying to say. For
terminology's sake, we could say that. We could say that. I think we're saying the same thing. It's just our terminology is different.
Just like people will say it about Lamar Jackson. He's not the best quarterback because he doesn't but record indicates his completion percentage, but he does it differently, so people don't give him the credit of what he is. And they would consider he's the best running quarterback, but he's not the best quarterback. You get what I'm saying? Right.
And I think we're saying the same thing. We just use different definitions for different terms.
I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? So, but back to my point. Okay, so let me ask you this. You think, so you picking the 49ers to win, or you saying they can win?
I want Philly to win. I'll put it on record that I want Philly. I want to see, black quarterback. I want to see Hurts do it for our people. But I'm going to be honest and take my biases aside. I really just think the 49ers is the best all-around team in the entire NFL. I think it's all about who gets hot the last 6, 7 weeks. And I think they won what, like 8 in a row games now?
Right,
Something
right.
like that. They're hot and they're physical. Like when you play them, you get beat up. And I think people get, by the time you get to the fourth quarter, I just think people just get tired of being hit or tired of having you a corner and you have to tackle Kittle.
Well, here's the thing. I'm in with you halfway until I saw the Eagles this weekend. And when I saw them, how they played, because I was leaning towards the 49ers. But when I saw, if you look at those two games, you look at the Niners versus the Cowboys, and then you look at the Eagles versus the Giants. Now, the Giants represented the hot team for me. I mean, of course, I thought Philly would win, but I thought the Giants had a better chance to beat the Eagles versus the Cowboys beating the Niners. But here's the thing. Philadelphia, what they showed me this weekend is they can dominate. And what I mean by dominate, if you look at their game versus the 49ers, I think the 49ers did what they had to do to win. I think the 49ers, and this is not a knock, don't take this the wrong way. I think the 49ers capitalized on a lot of the Cowboys' mistakes, where I think the Eagles just flat out dominated the Giants. I think the Eagles took the Giants out of the game from the beginning. And I think the Eagles defense is better than what a lot of people, think. The 49ers defense is nasty, but the Eagles defense, I mean, they just completely, it's not done with the same type of, run you in the ground like the Niners defense, but it's definitely credible.
So
I'm telling, go ahead.
I'm going to give you a different perspective. I looked at the Giants the whole entire year. If you look at the team, all the top receivers got injured. Their offense never really had no consistency. You have Slayton, Ricky James. I don't know who Ricky James is. I think he came from the CFL. I'm not even sure. Ricky James is out of nowhere. They don't really have anyone, and I expected that from Philly. Now, when I think about that season game, even though they had Minshew, and that was a close game, that defense showed me that they can be exposed. I watched Dak Prescott run through them and do some things to them. And there's no way McCarthy calls a game as good as my man in with the 49ers.
I mean, which is true on that, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. And you got to remember this. How long, as well as the Eagles been playing, I'm talking about the defense.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, Shanahan has called a brilliant game for this kid. You know what I'm saying? I'm starting to lean towards this kid, but here's the thing.
Best offensive play caller in the NFL to me.
Right. But how long do you think this kid, what's going to happen if he gets exposed this Sunday? Because here's the thing, regardless of the success that they have, and Shanahan has called flawless games for this kid, and they have not, he's done a great job of not putting this kid in harm's way. Mm-hmm. But are they going to be able, and whether, and I know you referenced the Dallas game when you talk about the defense, but do you honestly think, how long do you think it could last with this kid not being put in harm's way? Because here's the thing. Is this kid better than Daniel Jones?
But you answered it earlier, though. When you said that other teams are good in other areas and other teams allow Stafford, allow other players to do well because they build a team around them. I don't think he has to be great. I don't think he has to be perfect.
I know he doesn't have to be. He's
not.
They
could win the game 17-14.
I know, but here's the thing. Say what you want, and see, I think you downplaying the Eagles defense. I'm telling you, the Eagles defense can force turnovers. And I know that San Francisco has done a great job with this kid. You're absolutely right. They do not put him in a situation to where he has to do anything outside of his skill set. I'll give you that on Shanahan. But I'm just telling you, don't underestimate this defense, because at the end of the day, what they did to Daniel Jones, and I get it, you're right, New York's offense and his play calling is not up the same, They're not on the same level as what Shanahan is doing.
I actually think the play calling is tight. I just think they don't have the talent to match the play calling. Because
Well, regardless, okay.
Dave was one of the best play callers since his days in Buffalo. Over the last 4 or 5 years, he might be top three offensive coordinators.
Right, but regardless of that, it's going to come a time in the game where the kid is going to, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to make him have to make a play, regardless of what's going on. Do you really think that if he's put in that situation with that defense, and Philadelphia has a stout defense, I don't care what you say, I know the Dallas game, I just don't know, because at the end of the day, he has not been tested beyond,
The way I look at it is that I feel like San Fran has more playmakers.
I don't know.
You got that defensive line with Bosa. You got 3 all-pro linebackers. You got Debo Saunders. You have, I don't know how to say his name, number 11, the receiver, who's pretty damn solid. You have an all-pro running back, all-pro tight end. You have talent on your team. Like, you have the best left tackle in all of football. They all block their butts off. This dude, he could throw for 180 yards and they'll win this game. I'm going out on paper and say that these boys beat.
Gerard, the Eagles been doing it all year, and the Eagles have more depth than the Niners. Like, that's what I think you're forgetting. Like, and I get it. I understand what you're saying, because I felt, we both sat up here and talked about how the Giants, the hot team, was going to beat Minnesota. Of course, we don't believe in Minnesota, but I'm telling you, the Niners capitalized on the Cowboys' mistakes, and that's exactly what you're supposed to do. The Eagles dominated the Giants. They flat out dominated the Giants. I think they only allowed 7 points. And I don't see San Francisco going in there. I just can't see them going in there.
You got to realize, if you look at the Giants' last few games, they weren't scoring points like that.
But they were a surging team going into the playoffs.
They were surging because of their defense.
That's fine. That's fine. I give you that. I'll give you that. But at the end of the day, the Giants, can we agree that the Giants, the Cowboys, the NFC East was probably the best division in football? Overall.
Most competitive.
Most competitive.
Most competitive.
What do you mean that's the best division then, if you're saying most competitive? So what's the difference between most competitive?
Because I think you could be a competitive division because all the talent levels are similar.
All right, let me ask you another way. Name a better division in football this year. Who was better than the NFC East?
I would say that if you had the AFC East play the NFC East, we would beat them. I think the Dolphins would beat the Cowboys. I think the Bills would beat the Cowboys. I think Bills and Philly would be up in the air. I think if Tua's not injured, I think Tua would take Philly to the limit. I think if we had a quarterback, but we'll play any of those teams close because we had a great defense.
Okay, how many teams from the AFC East made the playoffs? The Bills and who else? The Bills and the Dolphins, right?
Yeah. No. Did New England go or no?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
If they did, who did they lose to?
They didn't go. They lost the last game. I think that would have put them in the playoffs. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we had 4 teams up into the last 2 weeks that could have made the playoffs, but like you said, didn't make the playoffs. So I can't argue that.
Right, and you had 3 teams from the NFC East that made the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Eagles.
You about to make me go look back?
No, you ain't got to Google it. The Cowboys just lost to the Niners, right? The Giants just lost to the Eagles, and the Eagles are still in the playoffs, right? You ain't got to Google it. You ain't got to Google it. I'm telling you the facts right now. So name me another division who had 3 teams in the playoffs this year.
You had the Seahawks. You had the 49ers.
Okay, who else?
And
that's the NFC West. That's 2. They out. Who else? Don't worry, I'll wait.
Yeah, Kansas City. You had
No,
Chargers.
in the AFC West, you only had one.
You
You
had
had the Kansas
City
City
and
Chiefs
Chargers. And
and
you
the
had
Chargers.
Chargers.
The Chargers
Every-
don't count. That's two.
There
That's
was
two.
only two in every division, though. There was only two with the AFC, with the NFC.
Oh, okay, so who's the better division this year?
I would easily take the Chargers and Chiefs. I would easily take, the
Gerard,
other divisions.
you just debating right now because you don't want to say I'm right.
Hold on.
The NFC East is the only division who had 3 teams this year. Now, maybe the AFC North. They had Cincinnati and Baltimore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, that's 2.
Hold on.
So name me another division. Name me another division. Name me another division that had 3 teams. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Baltimore, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Chargers, and Kansas City.
No. Jacksonville is in the AFC South, dude. Stop. Just stop.
You sure?
Yes. Like, pull it up. Google it. Google it. Like, just Google it. Because I know you arguing, you debating over nothing right now because you don't want to be wrong.
No, you're right.
Exactly.
You're right.
So it's the NFC East. They had 3 teams in the playoffs. You ain't got to Google it. I'm telling you.
No, I'm listening. I'm just double checking. You're right.
Right.
You're 100% right.
Right. Okay.
You're 100% right.
Okay. So, again.
Dolphins did make the playoffs too. Okay.
Yeah, that's the AFC East.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, I know you picking the 49ers, and that's a good pick, but I don't see the Niners going into Philadelphia again and dominating. They didn't dominate against the Cowboys. And who's the best team in the NFC East? This is easy. Don't make this hard. Please don't make this hard.
We already know Philly's the best team in the NFC.
Okay.
However,
so if the Niners didn't dominate the Cowboys, what makes you think they're gonna go in there and dominate the Eagles?
But I wasn't expecting to dominate the Cowboys. You got to consider the fact that the Cowboys beat Philly without their quarterback, I could say.
Okay, without their quarterback.
The first time they played, it was a close game.
Okay, but who's the best team in the NFC East?
I really think it's the 49ers.
No, in the NFC East.
In the NFC East, it's Philly.
Okay.
But it's the debatable because they were right neck and neck.
So isn't it logical? Let me put it this way. Is it logical to say that if they didn't blow out the Cowboys and the Eagles, you just said the Eagles are the best team in the NFC East. Is it logical to say that they could probably, like, it's going to be a hard game in Philadelphia?
It's going to be a hard game. I just think that 49ers will beat them.
All right. You're a fanboy right now. And I get it. You did pick the Niners. You picked the Niners. You did. They're like, I can't.
Because I think they're the best team overall, hands down. And I think they're the team that got the hottest at the end of the season.
All right.
If I recall right, it's like 8 in a row for them right now.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to the AFC Championship.
Mm-hmm.
If the 49ers win, what has to happen? How do they win against the Eagles?
I think defensively, they keep Jalen Hurts from running outside the pocket. They keep him contained. They make him throw, and they totally eliminate the running game and just make it a strictly passing game for the Eagles.
Okay. And how does the Eagles win? How do they beat the 49ers?
They force Purdy into a lot of turnovers.
Okay. And
I think even with 2 turnovers, I still think it's a close game because I think their defense is that good from keeping Philly from going crazy on every turnover. I think their defense can build them out of a couple of mistakes.
So you said if Purdy turns the ball over twice, they still can win?
They can still win. If he turns it over 3-4 times, I think that they won't overcome that. But if he turns it over twice, I think that defense is good enough to erase one of those mistakes.
Okay.
That's my honest opinion.
Okay. All right.
And they won their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games. Wait. Yeah, last 12 games.
All right, let me ask you this.
That's correct.
All right, so on the 49ers, right? I want to stay on the 49ers and then we'll move. The 49ers.
No,
How good this kid is playing. Next year, should it be win or loss? Should it be a quarterback controversy next year?
No, I think Purdy deserves the right to go into camp as the number one quarterback.
You think he's the number one quarterback?
I think he's the number one quarterback. I think what they're gonna do is either they're gonna sign Jimmy G or they're gonna let Trey Lance go. But one of them, they're either gonna let Jimmy G walk out or see what other teams offer him and see if they're willing to match. That's the route I would go. And if I were them, I would actually try to trade Trey Lance.
So you would keep Jimmy G as a backup?
I would keep Jimmy G as a backup. He's the sure thing. He's the thing that ever since he's been there, he's been a winner with your organization. Will he be willing to be the highest paid backup in the league? That's the question. Or does he still want to start in this league? Because at his age, I'd be like, especially how dangerous the sport is, I might say, oh, you want to give me $12 million a year for me to sit on the bench? I'll do it. You know what I mean? I don't have to go out there every week and get hurt, go home, play with my kids and chill. And my career would be longer. I could be that journeyman for the next 10 years.
No,
Like,
I agree. No debate here. I agree. I just wanted to ask that question because you made a case for the 49ers winning, and I can see that. I can see what you're saying. I don't think I don't know. Philadelphia showed me something.
That's going to create an issue. When Trey Lance come back, you have to look at it. He was your number 2 or number 3 pick in the NFL draft. He was supposed to be the starter. He was starting until he got injured. Now, if you come back and you play him, he starts losing, everyone's going to be calling for Purdy. He comes back, start losing, everyone's going to say that was a questionable pick.
So you think Purdy has he's got enough experience this year that he's won the starting job?
Yeah, especially if he beats Philly, and especially if he wins the Super Bowl, there's no reason to pull him away. He just pulled a Tom Brady. He just took the job from Bledsoe. You know what I mean? Like that Bledsoe being Jimmy or Trey.
Right. All right, so the Chiefs and the Bengals. I think we both. You got the Bengals, right?
I'll tell you why. Was it Chase caught 11 catches last year, and I think it was for over 200 yards in that game last year, something like that. And over the last 2 years,
right. So right now, check the company he's in right now. He's joined Randy Moss as the only players in NFL history to have 3,000 plus receiving yards and 25 plus receiving touchdowns in their first 2 seasons in the NFL. Like, that's crazy.
I personally think he's the best receiver outside of Jefferson. I actually think he's better than Jefferson.
I do too.
I'll say he's better than Jefferson. And I like Jefferson.
Yeah, I do too. I think Chase, and no disrespect to Jefferson. I mean, they both Pro Bowlers. I think they all NFL Pro both. I just think Chase does. I mean, golly, man. He's just a load. He's just low, and I think the only difference is, and some people, those who favor Justin Jefferson says, well, he doesn't have Joe Burrow. I understand that. Understand that, you know what I'm saying? I understand that, but just with my eyes, the physicality that Chase has, I think Justin is a great athlete. Jefferson is a great athlete, but Chase, when I just see him,
skillful.
Yeah. I mean, big, strong, and skillful. Right. I don't, I think he's the next one. I think the Hopkins generation is moving out. And I think these two, headlined by Chase, is moving in. But, I mean, he's already in the same company as Randy Moss in his first 2 seasons. All right, so let me ask you this. You got the Bengals. I can ride with that. I think the Bengals, because they beat them last year, and I think they're the only team that can go in KC and win.
I agree.
I just think what they got going on, man, like last year, I don't think it was a fluke, but I think they caught a lot of people by surprise last year. But for them to turn
3 times in a row.
Right.
And the last 3 times.
Right. And then to turn around and do it again, to come back the way they are. And I think Joe Burrow had a chip on his shoulder because people were talking about Mahomes, people were talking about Allen. I just think they're on a mission, man, and I think they can go in Kansas City. They've done it before, and they can win. Who would you rather have as your quarterback out of him and Mahomes?
I'm a Joe Cool dude, man. I've always been a fan of this kid, man. Like, when he came out of college, I was like, eh. But after watching him play, I was like, you can't hate on this dude, man. Like, I've never seen someone get sacked like 11 times in a game and still stand in the pocket, brave and strong, after coming off a knee injury.
And you think he does that better than Mahomes, or do you just prefer him over Mahomes?
I think they're two different types of players. Like that's the funny thing when I said the top four. I think they all four have their different attributes. I feel like Mahomes is the best improviser that I've ever seen play the position. Like
Meaning, like when the play breaks down, extending the play, making a play out of nothing.
Yes,
right?
and he could throw to anybody. He spreads the ball around. Like, no matter who's on his team, he spreads the ball around. But when you give him a weapon like a Tyreek Hill, he's 20 times better. Then you got Burrow. I just feel like he processes things so well, but it's his accuracy in the spots that he throws the ball. Like, when I watch where he throws the ball, sometimes I'm like, I don't see no other quarterback doing that. Then you got Allen. You don't see someone with so much strength and power.
The athletic freak
that will run you over, but at the same time, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes as a quarterback, and he could throw the deep ball. And then you got Lamar, who he just looked like he about to get caught, but he's so elusive. But at the same time, he's not the most throw in the pocket quarterback, but he's very accurate. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And he just wins. He just knows how to win, and he'll do whatever it takes to win. So it's four different types of players, but I definitely would choose Burrow because I just feel like
over Mahomes.
I'm choosing him over Mahomes because I feel like it's like a Magic versus Bird. And I say that there was a point in time where you could argue and say that Bird was probably the more dominant NBA player at that point before Magic took over. It's hard, man. It's hard, but I gotta go with Burrow, yo. I gotta go with Burrow, man.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I still say Mahomes is the best quarterback. I still say Mahomes, and here's my reason why.
Because he's more athletic. Yeah.
No. Not even that. Not even that. Because at the end of the day, I do think we sleep on Joe Burrow's athleticism.
Yeah, that's true too.
I think he's more athletic than people want to give him credit for. I've said it before on this podcast, and I'll stand by it. I mean, I really thought Kansas City was going to even be on the verge of not making the playoffs this season because they lost Tyreek Hill.
I thought the same thing.
And so losing Tyreek Hill, and then, of course, Kansas City didn't start the year off, favorably. They lost a couple of games, and it looked like everybody in the NFL and the media were writing them off. Mm-hmm. How many guys? Let me put it to you like this: to lose probably the most dangerous weapon in the league. And again, I know we're talking about Chase and we're talking about Jefferson, and they're coming up. They're the next generation, but the most dangerous offensive weapon in the league, other than Derrick Henry. Well, Derrick Henry, you can stack the box on him, but defenses fear. Yeah, defenses fear Tyreek Hill being able to blow the cover off of defense, the top off of defense. For Mahomes to have his team back in the AFC Championship is and even the numbers are incredible. He's still got incredible numbers. But for them to be back in the AFC Championship game with the home game, with the chance to go back to the Super Bowl. And I know he's won a Super Bowl MVP. Has he won a regular? I think he's won a regular season MVP too, right?
He's not an MVP. He won it before Lamar Jackson won it.
Right. Him and Lamar, I think that kind of separates them from everybody else to win an NFL MVP. And then Mahomes has a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But for Mahomes to do what he did without Tyreek Hill. Now, let me ask you this question. Does Joe Burrow get, and this may be, you may not think this is fair, but does Joe Burrow get the Bengals? If Joe Burrow's put in the same situation, if Joe Burrow loses Jamar Chase, Are the Bengals in the AFC Championship game?
I think you could say yeah, because they did lose Jamar Chase for part of the season. And I just thought T. Higgins got better. I thought Boyd got better. I thought he started to use more of the pieces around him. I think they still do. I think when you have an elite quarterback, you have an elite quarterback. You always have a chance to win. It's like having a point guard in the NBA. If you have an elite point guard, you're gonna make the playoffs. You might not make the championship, but you're gonna make the playoffs.
Okay. All right. All right. I mean, I I like Burrow too. I just still think Mahomes is the best. I think
I can give you that.
I think Mahomes, I think for Mahomes, the accomplishments, the NFL MVP, the Super Bowl ring, going back to the Super Bowl. Now Kansas City is back in the AFC Championship game. Even the stats that he's continued to put up, I still think he's the #1 quarterback in the league. Who has accomplished more in the small body of work that Mahomes has done so far?
Nobody.
And I think Burrow is knocking on the doorstep. I thought Josh Allen would be next, but the only thing I don't like about Josh, as much of and I have to disagree with you on one point about him, as much of a freak he is and much what he can do, sometimes he turns the ball over, and it's kind of like this. Because he's so freakishly athletic and he can make plays with his legs and his arm, you have to deal with it because he's so good at it. But there's times, if I say him versus Burrow, one thing that Burrow does is he doesn't turn the ball over. And that's what makes Burrow, that's why Cincinnati will always have a chance to win a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen. And I think Cincinnati shows you Josh will turn it over because that's his game. He's super athletic, and you live and die with the plays that he makes. Nobody can make those plays athletically. And so I think sometimes he gets too Brett Favre-ish, where he's such a maverick in how he plays. But you live with it because nobody else can do it like that. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like he's calmed down over the last couple of years, though. I felt minus this the first playoff game where he just threw 3. He's been pretty steady. That last game in Kansas City last year when they lost, he didn't throw any interceptions.
Well, I mean, and again, and I agree with you on this, with that point. He's getting better at that. And I think the more he continues not to, to turn that ball over, the better chances Buffalo will have to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I go back to your first argument that I really think it for him is that literally I think Cincinnati, Kansas City always had better teams, and it wasn't so much him as like the Dak Prescott case. I just think that even this game, you could tell like they got bullied this game. Buffalo just looked soft. They got bullied on the offensive line. They got bullied on the defense line. They ran the ball. They pushed them back. They sacked them. They were the better team. But I definitely I agree with you. I think those are the cream of the crop, and I do think Mahomes is the best quarterback out there. Like I'll give it to you. I think he's the best quarterback right now. If my man Burrow comes in and beats him in Kansas City after coming back, because they were down with like 17 last year in the playoffs. I don't know what the number was, but they came back in the second half and won. And ever since then, Burrow beat him twice. I think if Burrow wins this game, I think you have to give him the heads up on who's the better player right now.
I don't know. Maybe. Because I think Cincinnati has a better team than Kansas City. But, if you get outplayed, you get outplayed. If he was to beat Mahomes and say he's the better quarterback, I can't argue that. I really can't. Because that'll be 2 years in a row that he's going into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. So
what's your score prediction? And what's your over-under touchdowns for both of them?
I have no idea.
Wow.
I'm favoring.
I have both of them going at least 3 touchdowns.
For Mahomes and Burrow?
I have them both going over 3 touchdowns.
So you think it's gonna be a shootout?
I think it's gonna be like 31-34. I think
That's reasonable. I'm favoring Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
just because two things. Mahomes is hurt. And I just think when I see
They don't have
Cincinnati,
weapons. Yeah.
when I see the body language of Cincinnati, when I see the swag of Joe Burrow, I think going into Kansas City has no bearing on them. I think they know they can go in there and smack them if they want to.
I agree.
So I'm favoring Cincinnati, but again, I can never rule out Mahomes.
So you have Cincinnati versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And I have Cincinnati versus the 49ers.
I'm favoring the Eagles.
I want the Eagles to win. I'm just putting it out there. I want them to win. I just
I'm
don't
favoring the Eagles, but I know San Francisco can beat the Eagles. I think it's going to be a tall task, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if San Francisco won. I really would not. I think I'm favoring the Eagles. I'm favoring the Eagles because I'm not going to lie. Prior to seeing what the Eagles did this past weekend, I thought the Eagles, I didn't know how Hurts would play with his shoulder, them being off. I didn't know, and simply because of how they ended the season, I didn't know that they were going to show up and do what they did against the Giants.
And I will tell you this, that shoulder will get tested this week.
But just like his shoulder will get tested, that young quarterback is going to be made uncomfortable this weekend. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you that you're right.
Purdy. Yo, I'm not gonna lie. There's something about that kid, man.
I don't know. I don't think it's him. Kid, I think it's the things around him. But I'm just telling you, don't be surprised. This is the first weekend he could really be put in an uncomfortable spot. Because again, I think you downplaying Philadelphia's defense. I know you in love with San Francisco. It's easy to be in love with their defense. Bosa, all those guys, that linebacking core. But I'm telling you this, that Eagles defense, one thing that they got now, San Francisco may be nastier, but the Eagles has depth on defense. They have depth. Like they can run 3 or 4 guys. That's been the strength of their defense the whole year. Nobody's gotten hurt. Everybody in the second and third team can start on anybody else's team. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, go back if you get a chance before they play. Watch them against the Giants. What they did.
They got a dirty offensive line. They got
I'm telling you,
that kid from Georgia.
But I'm telling you, watch the defense. Watch the Philadelphia defense. They are just as nasty. Now, San Francisco is more sexier. That's the girl you want to get at the dance. But the chick that, San Francisco is the chick that got on the tight clothes and you know she's stacked. Everybody want her. That's the San Francisco defense. But Philadelphia is the chick that don't wear no makeup, wear the nice professional fit clothes. And then when you get her home and you take off her clothes, you're like, damn, I ain't know she was that stacked.
True.
San Francisco is the sexier girl. And everybody knows San Francisco is sexy on defense. But I'm telling you, that kid is going to be tested. We're going to see how good that kid is. We're going to see.
We're going to see. We're going to definitely see.
All right, let's stay at the quarterbacks. Now, we talked about the quarterback position. Now, coming into the next season, you got a list of quarterbacks who can hit free agency. You got David Carr. You got Tom Brady. Jones, Tannehill, David Tua, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, of course, Lamar, Jimmy G. Out of that group, who stays? Who stays with their teams?
That one is so tough.
I think Jones stays. I think Jones stays. I think Jones stays with the Giants.
You know why it's hard for that one? And I was listening to Sports Talk Radio, Michael Kay, the announcer for the Yankees, because he does the sports over
Right.
here
I
on
know exactly what you're talking
ESPN. If he wants more than 40 million, they might let him walk. Because right now, I guess the franchise tag is
Saquon,
the franchise tag for quarterbacks is I think close to
way too much quarterbacks.
30 or 40 million or something right now. The franchise, the market, going value market. So for 1 year, I think I think they said it was 40. I think they're willing to do a franchise and then see what he does. Or if he wants to do a longer term contract, I don't think they want to go over 35, 40 million a year. They say now if he comes in and says, hey, I want 50 million, they probably gonna let him walk.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that. He's not gonna do that.
I don't think he can do that.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that. He's not. No, he's not gonna do that. No, I think he stays. I think he stays. I think what they found out about him, he's gotten better, but with this coaching staff and this situation, I think he would be stupid to go anywhere else.
I agree. I definitely agree. But I do think he brings value to some teams. I do.
Yeah, but I mean, of course he does. But I mean, with Jones is this. I don't know if he does what he does under another coaching staff. I think he's found a coaching staff that has accepted him for who he is. And I think they've done a great job of, how can I say this, maximizing his strengths and hiding his weaknesses. I think he would be stupid to go in there and demand more money. This is really the first year, not the first year that he's played well, but the first year where he has a body of work where he's played well consistently.
I will say that's a testament to the coaching, yes.
That's what I'm saying,
but
yes.
I will also say that people are unfair to him because he's never had receivers or offensive line since he's been there since day one.
I agree.
Sterling tears his ACL, I think 2 years in a row. Evans gets hurt. Odell Beckham is hurt. Everyone that he's ever played, all the skill positions, Saquon Barkley gets hurt. They always been hurt, and he's never had an offensive line. He was probably the most sacked person over the last couple of years. And I think this was the first year they got a coach who created a system that uses talents of his running ability. He's a very accurate thrower. I think he would shine for a team, let's say like Miami. You got beautiful receivers over there with Waddle and Tariq and tight ends and a great running game. I'm not saying he should go there. I think Giants will keep him. I think Miami's issue is, do you want to play Tua when he's always having concussions? So that makes me think, is he your guy long-term? Or do you give him a short-term contract and you start looking for your long-term quarterback? Or the rumor is Lamar Jackson might be headed over there, or he might be angling to get to Miami. So,
well, I think with Tua,
and it was scary to see him shaking on the ground like that, and then to have more concussions after that.
No, I agree. I agree. I just think, I think this was supposed to be the year, and he has no control over this when I say this. This was supposed to be the year that he was set to prove himself. Remember, they armed the offense, and it's kind of bad luck. He got hurt. He had concussions. I think prior to that, he was on the he was on the way, or the trajectory rather, to proving that he was the guy. With the injury thing, if I'm Miami, if I do bring him back, it's definitely a 1 year short-term contract. And that's based on, how is he now? How is he in the offseason with his concussions? How is he as far as his health? If Lamar Jackson says he wants to come down here at the Dolphins, you have to at least entertain it if you have a shot at Lamar Jackson. I don't know. I have mixed feelings because I think Tua was on his way to something, but health has always been an issue for him. And now these concussions, I don't know. I mean, as an organization, I really have to sit down and really think about if I really think he could. I think he can be the guy with his ability, but his you know, his health issues, he's always hurt, and now you have the concussions. It definitely couldn't give him a long-term contract.
Yeah, it'd be hard. It had to give him short term.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air with that because I just kind of feel like the guy, it's been unfair. But if I had to make a business decision and if it's a chance for me to get a Lamar Jackson, I'm definitely going to entertain it.
So the way I look at it for them, there's only 3 quarterbacks they should be looking at because they have a win now offense. They have a win now team.
Yes, I agree.
In the order that I will put it, I'll put Aaron Rodgers as my number 1 choice. Try to make a trade for Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, I would choose Lamar Jackson. Number 3, I would choose Tom Brady. Those would be my 3. If I'm trying to win right now with that talent, any one of those 3 quarterbacks I feel can automatically go in there and can compete against Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, and wherever Jackson may be, if Jackson's not on that team.
So who's the best quarterback for that situation?
I think for that situation right now, if pure quarterback who's going to give them the ball and be accurate and do everything that you want to do on every throw, any type of down, I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. That'd be the bold move I would make for them. I might have to give up 2 firsts. I might have to give up, future. But I'm talking about their windows now. You got Jeff Wilson, you just got that running back. You got Mozart, great running game, tight end and Gazelle. And you have 2 of the best cornerbacks and a great defense.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to debate you on that, but now that I really think about that, I choose Rodgers for 2 reasons. For one, Brady, I'm just not a fan of. This is gonna sound bad, but I feel like Brady in comparison, and I'm comparing Brady to Rodgers. That's why I asked you about those 3, Rodgers and Jackson. I'm just not in the business right now bringing in a 40 plus old quarterback who cannot, if the play breaks down, he can't get me 5 yards. He just can't. And I know people say, well, he ain't never been able to do that. That's just what I prefer. That's personal. And I think everything on offense right now for him has got to be perfect. I think if one offensive lineman goes down, that ruins your chances of winning the Super Bowl with him because he can't scramble. He can't improvise. Now, to his credit, all these years, that lack of ability has been replaced by him just throwing the ball away and not turning the ball over.
And he processes very quick. He
does. But again, and I know Tampa Bay wasn't that good. I just think that Tampa Bay didn't win this year because everything wasn't perfect for him.
I agree with that.
I agree with that. Lamar, 2 things. Why I pick Rodgers over him. With him, he doesn't have an agent. And what does that look like at the negotiating table? Usually guys that don't have agents, it could be a rough negotiation. Not saying that that's him. It's just, that's not an easy thing. I mean, generally speaking, in the past. Number 2 is his health. As much as I love Lamar Jackson, he's going to be hurt. Now, hurt and injured are 2 different things. I mean, I love the guy. I absolutely love the guy, but I just think, in comparison to Rodgers, I think Rodgers is a diva.
He is a diva.
He is a diva. But I saw something today that made me. Skip Bayless said it, and I saw it in the article today, but I saw something from him that I never seen. And it actually, I've said to myself, why didn't he do this last year? But he decided to restructure his contract. So that lets me know he's taking some accountability. He may not come out and say it, but he's taking some accountability. Like he knows that I don't have that much time. So if I'm going to win, now it would have been better if he would have done it last year when they had Cobb, or the year before. If he would have restructured, they probably could have kept that guy. But that's a whole nother conversation. But the fact that he was willing to restructure says to me he's very aware of his career, and he's very aware that he needs to win right now. And so I like that, being that he's been a diva before. I think that's the perfect temperament to come into a team like Miami, meaning that
he automatically gets the respect of the veterans. As soon as
exactly,
they're gonna be, oh, that's
exactly. And I think the fact that he's willing to restructure says that he's not going to be too arrogant, but he's still going to be sharp. And I think by him being older, having some pieces together on a team like that may not, and he's a smart quarterback. He knows when to run. He knows when to throw. I think having those pieces may even buy him some more time. You might have 2 years.
I was going to agree with you. I was going to say that his contract has 2 more years. I think you play with a team like Miami, as long as they keep Tariq and Waddle, I think he has 4 more years, maybe 5.
And we didn't talk about it, but Miami has a stout defense that they don't get enough credit for.
And it's warm weather.
Exactly.
And Miami.
Exactly. And he steps right in. And let's be honest. I mean, other than Dallas, I think Miami even has a better team than Dallas. What other situation could he step into that fits his career, meaning that he's on the downside of his career, where that gives him a chance to win another Super Bowl?
Yep. With all-pro receivers.
Exactly.
You've been complaining about receivers. You get 2 all-pro receivers.
Exactly.
And you got cornerbacks that can guard one-on-one, that you're always going to be in the game.
Right. And you got a defense to where if you don't have perfect offensive possessions, they can win you some games. Yep. I mean, if they're able to win with Tua, even last year, I think they went on a 7-game winning streak or something like that, and the defense anchored that. Then imagine what they would do with Rodgers. Rodgers would keep the defense off the field, so, that actually would work. All right, so you got that. You got Carr. Now, let me say this. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm out on Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, and Baker Mayfield. Listen, I know you still look at Baker Mayfield and say he can help somebody. I'm out on him.
Darnold than Baker Mayfield. I think Darnold, I don't think he's, put it like this. I think there's teams that if Darnold or Baker Mayfield played on, would have made the playoffs this year. I think Washington Redskins is one.
I'm out. I'm out on him. I'm out on Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz.
Wentz is done.
I had Carson Wentz had the perfect situation in Philadelphia. I think he bombed that.
Yeah.
And I just think with him, he's what I call a combine quarterback. He has all the physical tools. In fact, he's the opposite of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts.
I think he gets a bad rap because he started out his career good until he broke his leg.
No.
You don't think he made the Pro Bowl that year? I think it was.
Yeah, but I mean, Matt Schaub made the Pro Bowl with us.
You're right.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
You're right.
I mean, listen. Would you not agree? His physical tools are better than Jalen Hurts. Now, how is it that Jalen Hurts is able to do what he's doing with the Eagles and Carson Wentz couldn't? And I'll tell you why. The intangibles.
Yeah, I agree.
Jalen Hurts is a leader. He's a guy that makes people believe based on his work ethic. Carson Wentz is a combine quarterback. The physical tools are there. 6'5", 250, 240, run a 4, whatever in the 40.
He's a Zach Wilson.
Right. But when he gets when he gets in the locker room, guys don't want to play with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then I think he got 2 more chances after he went to the
Colts.
He went to the Colts. Did he go to the
Then
Commanders or something like that? Yeah.
He went to the Colts and then he went to the Redskins.
Right. And so I'm out on him. Darnold, I'm out on him. I think the Jets
is more salvageable though.
He may be, but I know my organization, I wouldn't deal with him.
Yeah.
Maybe as a backup. He's
the type of backup I put, like if I bring Tua back, he's the type of backup I put behind Tua.
Yeah, or competing with Tua, maybe, Baker Mayfield, I'm out. I think Cleveland was the perfect situation for any quarterback. And here's the thing, there was no pressure to win in Cleveland.
Yeah, none at all.
And you messed that up with that team, I'm out on him. I've never been in on him. I think he's been a hype job.
Mm-hmm.
And people said I've been hard on him, but I mean, it looks like I know what I'm talking about. I'm out on him.
Oh yeah, and apologies because we talked about this earlier. I forgot. If you want to say running back too, I would probably have to throw Nick Chubb up there and say that boy might be the baddest running back.
Exactly. And as I say, we're talking about pure running back, and it's nothing against McCaffrey. I just think McCaffrey's more of a multi-purpose guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Nick Chubb is different, man.
Exactly. We talked about Jimmy G. Okay, here's a good one. What do you do with Tannehill?
I think Tennessee might have to re-sign him.
I think
he's a winner. I don't think he's the winner that gets you to the Super Bowl, but I think he's the player that will take you to the playoffs and possibly win you a game if you have the right team around. Perfect example, I think if you threw him on Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that's a 10 or 11 win team with him.
Right.
10 or 11
I agree. I'm still in on him simply because of this. When he got to Tennessee, didn't he win Most Improved one year?
He won Most Improved.
Right. I think what we talked about earlier, I think he's one of those guys. I think people have to remember that I don't think I've seen him on a team. Now, Tennessee, I think they had AJ White.
AJ Brown, you mean?
Yeah, with the Titans.
Yeah, AJ Brown was
AJ Brown, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the white kid, but that's on another team. But I think Tennessee, I think what they need to do is what Miami did with Tua. I think you need to find out if he's the guy.
Yeah.
I think you need to stack the team, and I think you need to get some more receivers. I'm not saying you got to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins, but find out what you got in him, because here's the thing. The guy he was a part of the process of you guys coming back to glory on top of what I think is Mike Vrabel arriving in Tennessee. I think the guy can still play. I think he can still be a starter there. I think load up and put some pieces around him and see what you got.
You know what route I would go? I think I'm going to say the opposite. I think you drafted Patrick Willis. I think you got to see if he's your future. But I think that's a team that needs to start building for the future while all the good teams are good. You're not going to be as good as them anytime soon. You're not going to win no Super Bowl. Try to get a first rounder and a second rounder, or a first and a third for Derrick Henry. Use one of your draft picks and see if you can move up and get Stroud or CJ or Bryce Young, and let those two compete with Willis, or trade Willis, or do something. But I think you could let Tannehill go, because why pay him a lot if you know you're not going to win a Super Bowl anyway?
Well, don't pay him a lot. Give him
his market value in this NFL league. If you're going to give Daniel Jones $35 million to $45 million as a starting quarterback, I think Tannehill deserves a little bit more than that.
No, I don't know.
He's done more.
If he gets more, he gets a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal. I think in the same sense, when you say he's worth more, I think if he's worth more, I think they owe it to him to see what he can be with something better around him.
But I think you set the tone when you draft a top quarterback in the first 2 rounds, and you're saying you're our future.
Yeah, but again, I mean, giving away Derrick Henry.
I mean, are you going to win any chip? Why pay a running back, which is not a premium position that they like to pay anymore? Where you could possibly, where everyone knows Derrick Henry's nice, you could still get a value and still draft a running back. You could draft a dude from Michigan.
But here's the thing. Okay.
The dude from Texas. Texas got one of the top running backs.
I know. I understand the logic behind that. But here's the thing. If you're going to let Derrick Henry walk, then you might as well start over, because that team was built, Tannehill was built to be with that team, a run-first team.
Mm-hmm.
So if you let Henry go, then you might as well get rid of Tannehill. You might as well start over.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, it's kind of like the Knicks. If we keep status quo, we're going to be the middle of the pack. Why always be middle of the pack if you're never, ever going to get a top draft pick and you're never, ever going to win a championship or never be a top something team? You might as well just keep until you land that. It's like your man did in Philly, until you get your number 1 pick, so you get that franchise changer. They don't have a franchise changer right now besides Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry probably got 2 more years left in him of being this great. I say 2 more years of him being this great before they start cutting him.
I mean, I don't listen. I mean, I get it. My thing is this: if you get rid of Derrick Henry, then send Tannehill.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Then send Tannehill. Send Tannehill and start over.
Because I feel like
I don't know. I mean, you're high on Willis. Willis is a good looking.
It's never being high on Willis, because I personally think you could get the same result. And I'll give you an example. You could keep Henry now, and I think if you threw Mayfield or Darnold on that team, you're still going to get the same result. 1 win less or 1 win more, or the same exact wins. Tannehill's not that much better than Darnold, Willis, Tua, if he's even that much better. Tua's probably better than all of them, but he's not that much better than Darnold and Mayfield.
Maybe.
I think on the right team, he makes the right. He's the perfect quarterback for Pittsburgh.
Who, Tannehill?
I think Tannehill is the perfect quarterback for a team like Pittsburgh.
Maybe. That's not a bad idea. I just think, again, I'm gonna stick to my guns. If you get rid of Henry, and I understand that, if you get rid of Henry, then you need to send Tannehill with him, because the reason why that worked is because you didn't have a pass dominant quarterback. So if you get rid of Henry, then yes, go to the draft, get a Stroud, get a, right, and compete.
But
that's not a bad idea.
The question is, how long do you keep Henry? Because the more he plays, the more value he's losing. You could get something good for him now. You're already towards the end. You could always get a running back. Like they say, you might not get the greatest running back, but there's always running backs every year coming out.
But don't you? Here's the thing. That you make sense. That makes sense. But don't you? Do you feel a certain way about just letting him go? I mean, he's not decreasing in productivity. He's not decreasing in, and let's be honest, as an organization,
they just let go their GM, though. They just let go their GM.
But as an organization, you haven't put anything around Henry to kind of like, hey, we've given you everything we need to get to the Super Bowl. You haven't done it.
But what are they going to put
around? A different direction.
Do you see anyone as a free agent quarterback that's going to be like, okay, if we add this quarterback, we have Henry, and possibly get lucky and draft the perfect receiver right now? That's going to take them to beating Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo. The Jets are up and coming. The Dolphins are up and coming. To me, I think hey, let me clear cap space, because I'm pretty sure he's probably worth 25% of the cap probably right now, Henry. You could get.
I don't know. It all depends. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. That's a big organization. That's kind of an identity question for an organization, because again, if you're getting rid of Derrick Henry, and I'm not opposed to it, but what you're saying is we're going to abandon the run and we're going to start all over. We're going to start all over. What we've been building, and we've had somewhat success with this system, we're going to abandon that. And if we abandon that, then you got to have a direction where you're going to start. So I'm assuming if you get rid of Derrick Henry, you're going to turn into a pass first team, which means you're going to go in the draft, unless you are going to pay for a big free agent quarterback. Who's available? Rodgers,
I think
Jackson.
I think you can sign Carr. Carr could be a perfect person for that team. Then you start.
But if you sign Carr, that's really not that much better than Tannehill, right?
I think he's younger, and I think he's more of a quarterback than Tannehill.
But I mean, Derek Carr's body of work, and I know it's a little bit skewed because of the dysfunction of the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Not discounting that. Multiple offensive coordinators, multiple player situations that were not positive on the offensive side of the ball. I get it. But I mean, I feel like if you're the Titans, if you're going after Derek Carr, are you chasing a Super Bowl? If you're going to do that, if you're going to go after Derek Carr and Tannehill are in the same age bracket to me. Not necessarily age, but as far as career. Let me say that, career bracket. I mean, what do they have left at the most that you can get the best out of them? Those two.
And that's my concern with why pay Derrick Henry all this money if we ain't gonna win them?
I agree. That's what I'm saying. So again, if it's Derrick Henry, then it's Ryan Tannehill, then don't bring in Derek Carr. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Unless you're resetting and saying, hey, I can see you, Carr. We'll bring in some receivers and we'll draft a running back and we'll start a new system, like you said. Because I don't see if Derrick Henry leaves and Tannehill leaves, I don't see Vrabel staying. Vrabel, I forgot. I think that's how you say it.
Vrabel,
I think. I don't see him staying too much longer. He's gotten about 8 years over there now. Like I think it's about time to turn the chapter. I think
that's what I say. Again, back to your original idea. If they turn the chapter, then go to the draft with a quarterback.
Draft and draft Patrick Willis. You drafted Patrick Willis in the top 2 rounds of last year's draft. Set up a spread offense. Set it up so that you can start doing what some of these other teams are doing with the running quarterback, and play it like you're playing it like it's the Buffalo Bills or the Ravens. They just got rid of the Ravens offensive coordinator. Roman or whatever his name is, to have him come in and be the offensive coordinator for this young dude and start building a team like that.
No, I agree. I think it's either or. I just think don't sign any of these guys. Like, don't sign Carr.
Carr can help a Redskins. Tannehill can help a Redskins. Carr can help a Steelers. Tannehill can help a Steelers.
But I mean, I'm saying for the Titans though. My whole thing is for the Titans. If you're gonna get rid of Derrick Henry, don't bring in a Carr. Don't bring in a Tannehill. Right. Don't keep a Tannehill. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I mean, Carr, I know he's had a bad rap, but I just can't see starting over and saying we're gonna try to go to Super Bowl with Derek Carr as my quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, no disrespect to him, but
it's going to be interesting to see where these quarterbacks go, because there's some interesting destinations. You got the Saints who ain't horrible. They're going to need a quarterback because I don't believe in Dalton, and I think Jameis Winston is a quarterback that's a journey that we didn't put on this list. That I think he's a free agent, and I will put him over a couple of these players on this list. That I think that he didn't get a fair chance with the Saints.
I back up at most. You're right. He didn't. You know what?
He's better than Zach Wilson. I'll take Jameis Winston over Zach Wilson.
I mean, but that's not saying much.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not saying much.
But that just shows you that you got people getting opportunities and other people not.
True. That's no debate. True.
If you give Zach Wilson an opportunity, he's throwing mad interceptions. At at least Jameis Winston throws productive interceptions. He's
I
giving
mean,
you 400 yards
the thing we know about Jameis, he'll lead the league in interceptions, but he'll also in that same season lead the league in touchdowns.
Exactly.
So at least you get some kind of production. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm with you. Let's switch over to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Me and you both got, and then we'll wrap up after these next. We'll get to some boxing next week. But let's talk about, me and you both have this highlighted. Actually, you know what? Let's stay with the NFL. I like what you got here. Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott. Should either team bring them back?
I think kind of both. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that both of them have been, when you think of Cowboys, you think of Zeke. When you think of Giants, you think of, in my opinion, like being in New York and not being in the state of Texas. When I think of the Cowboys, outside of when you thought about Emmitt Smith and you thought about,
on the Cowboys, I couldn't disagree with you more, but I'm gonna let you get your, go ahead. I'm gonna let you spin.
But when I think of like the attitude, the personality, the swag and everything, I feel like Zeke came at a time when they were lacking that. I think they were losing a lot, and then I think Zeke came around, and around that time is when they started to like transition into a better team. You had Romo, you had Zeke. Now they started to get this great offensive line. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think that they should keep him, but I think he should take a pay cut. Zeke should take a pay cut. On the other hand, Barkley, man, he is the New York Giants. When you think about that team, you ain't gonna go watch the game if it's Richie James at receiver and Slayton at receiver. I'm not buying no season tickets to go see that.
I'm with you 100% on Saquon Barkley. I think you have to bring him back.
I think people get caught up with saying, you know what, oh, he's a running back. You could get multiple running backs or whatever. You don't get that type of talent, man.
You don't.
You don't find that type of talent too often. And yes, it's scary because the person that stops on a dime can do a spin move going 16, 20 miles an hour running and just stop. Like you get scared that they're going to blow their knee or ACL. But I think that he's fully recovered. I think that when he's there, he's pretty much sometimes 30, 40% of your production, whether he's catching out the backfield or running it. And I think if you put some talent around him where some receivers where they can't fill the box up and you get and Daniel Jones can progress a little bit more, I think he's the home run hitter that every team needs. That person that you're struggling the whole game, you dunk it down for 3 yards, he turns it into 80.
I agree. And here's the thing about him. The thing about him is this, two things for me. He represents exactly the attitude that the New York Giants have been lacking.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe even I mean, running back, maybe even he may even have more of a dog than what Brandon Jacobs was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think for the city of New York, a running back with his makeup, and I mean the dog, the attitude that he brings is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And the attitude that he has, I want my team to have that. And I like the fact with him, when you look at his body, you look how dedicated he is in his training. I don't mind investing in a running back who takes care of his body. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to be there
and
more than 5 years. Right. We know that running backs don't last. We just talked about Derrick Henry. We know running backs don't last that long. But if I'm going to invest in a running back, and I'm going to counter this point with Zeke, because I think they're the opposite. Saquon Barkley, you can look at his body and tell he's in the gym. I don't mind investing in a running back who's productive and who does that. In fact, that's one of the things I want to see in my running back. How much is he taking care of his body? Ezekiel Elliott. Now think about this, Cole. Think about this. What NFL football player tells you this and you believe this? This is why I say the Cowboys are a Mickey Mouse organization. All right. And that's funny coming from me, being I'm Houston, Texas with these clowns. But think about this. Ezekiel Elliott actually had the nerve to come out and say, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? Hey, I'm going to work out in Cabo. Like, did we really believe that? Okay. Okay. Let's say I'm wrong. The last couple of years of Ezekiel Elliott's career, does it look like he's been working out in Cabo? Or does it look like he's been kicking it in Cabo?
True.
So it's vice versa for me. Definitely Saquon Barkley. And I'm with you. I don't really like to invest a lot in running backs, you know, but if I am for what Saquon is doing right now in New York, yes, it's a risk. From a manager's standpoint, yes, it's a risk. Invested into a running back, yes, that is a very much a risk that most GMs should not do. With that being said, I believe he's an outlier. And then, you know, another thing, Gerard, you can tell the character of somebody when they have that, the type of injury that he had, how he came back, how he trained, his attitude. I think that's a part of their appeal why they made it to the second round of the playoffs this year. You know, so definitely with him, yes. I make the investment. If it doesn't work, it's simply because his body just couldn't hold up, but I love his attitude.
You know who he reminds me of when it comes to running back? Who I still think could play is just that I think certain people get branded as in, oh, they're old or whatever. But I think Peterson could still play.
Probably could.
You know?
Because
I
he's
feel like,
definitely a physical freak, and he definitely, much like T.O.,
yeah,
they stay in shape.
I was going to say that too. I feel like
Yeah.
Theo and Peterson were just branded wrong.
Yeah.
Like
And
they probably a bit more quieter, more, you know,
right.
I think they both be in the league right now. If
Right.
didn't do
Well,
that
I mean,
child abuse.
and a credit to T.O., as much controversy that he's been in, you never had any real issue with him off the field, I don't think. You know, I mean, he's a diva. Most receivers are, but you know, at the end of the day, if you got a strong-minded quarterback, you can deal with him. Not saying I would pick him up now, but if you look at his body, he stays in shape. Again, and if you look at Ezekiel Elliott, and here's the thing, nothing is more telling than the other day, what we just talked about the 49ers. Receivers are not productive. The only receiver that was productive was CeeDee Lamb. Pollard goes down. When Pollard goes down, the offense is nothing. So why would I pay a guy, Ezekiel Elliott, who couldn't give me nothing? You know, so I just think if I'm the Cowboys and I know Zeke is a name.
Do you think is Zeke giving nothing, or do you think it's the way McCarthy calls the game? Because there's games I watch and I'm like, yo, Zeke is still giving you 3, 4, sometimes 5 yards a carry.
And he can. I'm not saying he can't. He can. But unless he has to restructure his he's got to take a pay cut.
I agree. I think he has to restructure his contract.
Yeah, he's got to take a pay cut.
But Barkley, I think Barkley's worth the 16.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. But with Zeke, it's just like, dude, let's be honest. Your productivity is down. You're not the same guy, you know, and I don't know if you're not the same guy simply because you're getting older, or I don't know if you're taking care of your body, or both. You know what I'm saying? So I just think for running backs, especially a running back like him, Zeke, I don't see him. I just can't. I can't trust him off the field to get himself together. And I'm not trying to talk down on the guy. I'm just saying, when it comes to dollars and running backs, we have the same philosophy. I don't know. I don't know if I would invest in him. Versus Saquon, I would take that chance. I would take that chance for Saquon.
If he doesn't sign back with the Giants, who do you think is the best fit for Barkley?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
I would say Kansas City. I
Yeah.
think Andy Reid will use him in so many different ways.
But would they run? I would look for a place that is similar to New York,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is the problem.
Buffalo Bills. You think Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, maybe Buffalo, but somewhere that would use him like New York used him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when I say that, I just thought about this today. If I'm the Denver Broncos, in order for me to get Russell Wilson back to what I think he can be, just go back and look at Seattle. Run the offense that they ran in Seattle. Go look at their playbook.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to use players if they've had success in the system. Then I'm talking about Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
Send them to a place where what he did in New York is similar. I think that's the problem with Russell Wilson. Or at least I would try that if I was Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Try to put him in the mind frame that he was when he's in Seattle. Now, you can't make your team like that, but whatever system he ran in Seattle, try that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the NBA, and then we'll wrap up. Now, we both talked about the Sacramento Kings, and I think this is important because I think we need to give them their just due. Monte McNair, which is the general manager, has agreed to a contract extension with the Kings. This year, meaning 2022, 2023 NBA season, he's in the final year of his 3-year contract, which is his first contract. He initially signed in 2020. Now, since he's been signed, here's his accomplishments. He's flipped the Kings roster from the bottom of the playoff contenders. There's only 3 players that remain from the original roster, which the roster he inherited in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So the only players he's got left is Harrison Barnes, De'Aaron Fox, and Richard Holmes. Since then, he signed Fox to a 5-year extension, and he's built the roster around him. And the other significant moves, check this out, include trading for Domantas Sabonis.
Mm-hmm.
One of your favorites, he drafted Keegan Murray at number 4. He acquired sharpshooter Kevin Huerter in a swap with the Atlanta Hawks. And credit to him, looking after his superstar, De'Aaron Fox, he signed Malik Monk in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings are currently 3rd in the West at 27-19. They own the top scoring offense in the NBA at 120.3 points a game. And they rank 2nd in offensive rating at 117.9. Do you think this extension of them giving him an extension is just due?
I think it's just due. I think he's made the right decisions from hiring Mike Brown. I think Mike Brown coming from coaching LeBron to the NBA championship. I don't know if he won the championship as LeBron, but I think he did, but I'm not
I think
sure.
as an assistant coach. I don't think he ever won as a head coach.
Yeah, then he's been in Golden State under one of the best teams with the best players. He's been in a winning atmosphere, and all he did was add that culture of going to because he did go to the finals with LeBron.
Right, he did. They didn't win. That's when LeBron was young. Right.
Yeah, he took LeBron to the finals, and then he's over there with Golden State. He won the finals as an assistant coach. He was over there for several years, playing with championship caliber players who know how to win, to now coming over there to Sacramento, after having been in losing situation to winning situation to always winning situation. I think it's taught him how to coach with this new culture, this new style of athlete, the non-defensive playing type of young person, to getting them to play a little bit of defense to go along with the offense, and catering the offense to De'Aaron Fox's best player, while getting unselfish people who just care about, playing team ball. I think he's done actually a job of creating culture over there. I remember you telling me back in the day that De'Aaron Fox probably wanted to leave, wanted to be out, based on sources that you used to have that used to speak to him. And I see it now. I hear he wants to stay. I hear he likes it there. So Who would ever thought that people would like this since Chris Webber and Bibi Stojakovic and Divac? That was the last time the Kings were ever really prominent or even heard about, talked about.
Well, I think he definitely deserved that extension. I think he's done a great job.
Excellent job.
And what I mean by that is you bring up a good point, bringing in Mike Brown. And the Mike Brown pickup was so key because here's the thing. One thing that Mike Brown has in his resume that I think fits this team, and this speaks to how good McNair is that naming all of those things you named, I think what Mike Brown has done in his career, what he's perfected, and I know I'm going out on a limb saying this, is being able to coach young players and teaching them how to win. I think when Mike Brown labored with LeBron in Cleveland, he learned how to coach and be a part of a young superstar movement. And I think that was the perfect case to prepare him for now. Because say what you want to say, it takes a special type of coach. For number one, here's the thing. Nobody wants to go to Sacramento and play.
Nobody.
Okay. Number one, for Mike Brown being able to, you got a young superstar like De'Aaron Fox to convince him to stay, to convince him, after so many years of losing, to stay. And not only to stay, but he's got those young guys playing at the top of their game. Now, of course, offensively, the numbers come off the charts, but it takes a lot to coach young superstars. And I think people take that for granted. First of all, one thing you got to do about young superstars is most of them are full of talent, but they don't know how to win.
Right,
i.e. my Rockets. Any given night, Jalen Green can get 42 points, but then they can lose 13 games in a row. And so that's one of the things that Silas is struggling with, learning how to coach young superstars, because coaching young superstars, they're full of talent, but they don't understand consistency. I think, right. And the one thing that you can't give young players is experience. And so being able to coach those guys that don't have a lot of experience is a plus. Not every coach can do that, and again, like I said, I already said about the location. Nobody wants to come to Sacramento and play. Nobody. And when I say nobody, if you can't get veteran,
I've been to Sacramento. It's not even a bad city.
It's not a bad city, but here's the thing. With Bibi and Webber and Divac, you got to look at it like this. All those guys were older. And of course, older players, as they get older, after they've lived in the limelight, after they made the money, made the all-star teams, what do? They start concentrating on winning.
Yep.
And so for them to go there to Sacramento, yeah, of course. Listen, we older, not worried about the nightlife. We trying to win. So it don't matter being in Sacramento, i.e. Karl Malone, John Stockton. It's hard to get young guys to go there because, again, let's be honest, it ain't nothing to do. So anybody that goes there is probably going to have to be an older player if you're talking about winning, because older players, that's when Sacramento was winning, because all those guys were older. They didn't worry about going out, hanging out. But to get young guys to come to Sacramento where it's nothing to do, I mean, yeah, it's a nice city. It is a nice city. The women are beautiful. I've been out there too. But to get somebody to come to Sacramento, 23, 24 years old, and to get them to stay there and convince them that you can have a winning culture there,
it's hard.
It's hard. So for him to do that, on top of Mike Brown, bringing that right coach in, that's what I'm talking about. The free agent move with Sabonis. I always thought Sabonis was a good young player that was stuck in Indianapolis. And nobody, it's kind of like, man, nobody's recognizing this guy because the team is not winning. To go get him, to your credit, you've always been behind this guy, but the Murray kid from Iowa.
Yeah. He's going to be a problem, man.
Yeah, and he's got a chance. I think he's going to be on one of those all rookie teams.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably got a chance to be rookie of the year. You know, he's going to get some votes. But there's three things right there. He found the right coach. He found the right free agent.
Mm-hmm.
He found the right draft pick. And I guess we can give him credit for 4. He made De'Aaron Fox happy.
Yep.
Those 4 things right there.
Did De'Aaron Fox play with Malik Monk in college?
Kentucky.
It's those small little details, those things like that. You bring in a college teammate, then you bring in Herter, who's been on a playoff team in Atlanta.
Exactly.
Bonus, who played playoff basketball, like you said.
Exactly.
And then you bring in Keegan Murray, who's dirty.
Right. So, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, their specialty is being able to bring in young players, young draft picks, and getting the best out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually go somewhere in free agency. You have some GMs like Daryl Morey, who his strength is bringing in free agents and winning right now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this guy's been able to bring in free agents. This guy's been able to bring in the right draft pick. This guy has been able to bring in or satisfy the top player, De'Aaron Fox. And so you bring all those things in on top of bringing the right coach in. I think he's done a great job.
I agree.
If they continue, I think Mike should be considered as one of the candidates of Coach of the Year. I think McNair should be considered one of the candidates for GM of the Year.
I think they both will. If they even finish top 5 in the West, for a team that hasn't made the playoffs in so many years, and they finish top 5 and with a better record than the Golden State Warriors, a better record than the Lakers, a better record than the Clippers, like.
And listen, I think that's even exceeding expectations. I think if they make the playoffs without the play-in,
yeah. Imagine if that was FanDuel or MGM or
exactly.
DraftKings. No one ever expected that. If I would have made a bet that these boys would have made the playoffs and finished top, I probably got 100,000 off of $10 right now.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's stay in the NBA, then we'll wrap it up. So, a name that's coming up, and you talked about it all the time, that's coming up in key free agent trades, pending trades for this season. Of course, there's one more deadline coming up.
Mm-hmm.
The Phoenix Suns, as well as the Clippers, both are interested in Fred VanVleet.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought it up numerous of times on this podcast. You brought his name up along with things that we talked about off the air. The Suns have started to assess their future, and they're starting to, what I've been asking them to do for a long time, is they're starting to look at their team without Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've identified, along with VanVleet, Rozier, quickly from your guys, as potential free agent guards they'll go after. The Clippers, mainly, they've talked about going after, along with VanVleet, Lowry, and Mike Conley, who's at the Jazz. Who is the best fit for VanVleet out of the Clippers and the Suns, and why?
That's tough because I think he's a fit for both. But I think the team that needs him the most is probably the Suns if they want to keep Booker happy. Because I think that Chris Paul is not at the place in his career where he'll ever play a full season again. And we all know his career. Every single playoff, he's going to either pull a hamstring, break a finger or a hand or whatever like that. So I can't trust that he'll be available. But I do believe that the window for them keeping Booker is, make him happy in the immediate future. Because I feel like if he misses the playoffs this year, or if they get eliminated like they did last year in the first round, it's not going to be a good look, and he's going to want to get traded.
Right.
I think the Clippers' issue is that I think they could win with a Lowry. I think they could win with a Rozier. But my issue is I don't think like last year when I thought they would win when they'll get Kawhi is that I feel the issue with them is that their star players don't play enough. They're like Chris Paul. They're always injured.
Right.
If they're not injured, they're always on case management or case load man. Not case load man.
Load management.
Yeah, I'm thinking about work, but load
Right,
management.
right.
And I think their window's closing. I think they're both free agents in 2024. And I think that if they don't win this year, I think Ballmer needs to trade one of them to get the most that they could get out one of the 10, whether it's Chris Paul or Kawhi. I think he needs to get the most to start recouping some of the money or some of the draft picks back. But this is their window. For me, it's all in for the Suns, all in for the Clippers. Whoever doesn't make the playoffs, whoever gets eliminated, whoever doesn't make the big pick, I think it's time to start thinking about rebuilding. Because what happens where a lot of these GMs, to me, fail, is that they keep trying to rebuild when they know they don't have a talent enough to win right now. And then you got teams that have a good mix of either all young players or a mix of good young and old players that are going to be there for a while. An example of that would be Denver. Denver is going to be in championship contention for the next 6 years. Promise you that.
I agree.
Memphis going to be in championship contention for the next 3-4 years.
I agree.
Promise you that.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. With both of those cases, I agree with
Dallas, if they could get another player with Doncic because he's such a great player, they'll be in contention for years if they could get another player. If not, he's going to be disgruntled and want to leave. So it really comes down to this year for Phoenix, this year for the Clippers, for them to decide what they're going to do. There's other teams that are there that made their windows closing, but they have talent around them that they could say, I could trade 2 or 3 young players or I got my draft picks. The Warriors is like that. The Warriors can add one player and be good enough and be in championship contention. Or they could say, we could trade Weissman, we could trade Poole, we could trade and we could add a Kawhi Leonard and be in contention next year. You know, there's things they could do, but Phoenix got to make a move. Clippers got to make a move.
So you think Van Fleet would be better on Phoenix?
I think for their future of keeping Booker, because he's a younger player than Kawhi Leonard and Chris Paul and Paul George, I think it's more important for them to get Van Fleet than it is for the Clippers.
Now, if they give Van Fleet and Phoenix, do they go to the playoffs this year?
I think if they give Van Fleet and Phoenix, I think they go to the playoffs. It gives them more versatility because you could play him and Chris Paul together, even though they're small. You could play him and Chris Paul together with Booker at the small forward in certain games, depending on who they're playing. But I think it puts them in the playoffs and it also gives them leverage with being able to utilize Ayton and maybe Mikal Bridges or Ayton and Cameron Jones to get a better player, upgrade at that position, or get some draft picks or something. I think I really think the Clippers could just get Lowry and be good. I think Lowry is still steady. As long as he doesn't get injured in the playoffs, I think he's the steady type of point guard. He's never going to lose you a game.
That's true. You know, I never thought about that. I agree with you. I had Van Fleet going to the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
When I was thinking about the Clippers, when I was looking at this question, it's like I kind of was going back and forth with Van Fleet going over there in my argument with myself. Because here's the thing. Both Kawhi and George are going to be free agents in 2024. And so I think the window for them is closing a lot earlier than the Phoenix Suns.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know at least one of them, if not both of them, are going to be out of there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so to me, the selfish part of me saying I would like to see them get close or try to win a championship. I thought Van Fleet, because he played with Kawhi on that championship team in Toronto. There was a part of me saying, go to the Clippers. And I think the Clippers have more of a chance of winning a championship, of course, than Phoenix does.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, if, of course, both of them are there. I think they smacked the Lakers last night because both of them were there. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, as far as more of a fit in the long run, it's definitely Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
I think Van Fleet could go there now. And now, like I said, I was having Van Fleet go there now because I think the Clippers, I think they have to be all in this year.
Yeah.
Just because next year, 2024, one of those guys, or at least both of those guys, or one or probably both are going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to have to start over completely. You got Reggie Jackson over there. He's done.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love Reggie, he's done.
John Wall.
John Wall is, great comeback. But so I had Van Fleet going over there just for the now factor.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, in the long run, I think it benefits the Suns. I think the Suns can put something together with him and Booker.
Yeah.
And to be honest,
he fits their timeline of young player, Cameron Jones and
Bridges, right. And to be honest with you, and I think I said this last year, I think the Suns waited too long.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul has shown us, no matter how good he looks in the preseason, he is not going to make it through a whole season. Mm-hmm. And I felt like the Suns, and I get it, they made a run at the championship. They made a legit run at the championship. So I get it. He was one of the main players on that team. But I've said it since the Rockets that if you're going to play him, you're going to have to do it like the Spurs did with Tony Parker and all of them. You got to count on him not being there the whole year. And you have to do load management with him. And so go ahead and bring in some younger guys. Bring in a Deontay Murray. Bring in a Fred VanVleet that can step in. I think the Warriors are doing it to a certain extent with Poole.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul, Curry, even Thompson, those teams have to start thinking about those guys not being there. And so I thought the Suns should have been on this 2 years ago. I think VanVleet should have been here 2 years ago. They might even been on a trajectory this year to compete for another championship. But I think they stayed with Chris Paul too long. I really do. And Chris Paul has shown us, as good as he looks, he comes in shape. He never comes out of shape. He comes in, lighter than what he usually is, but he's going to get hurt. His body is not the same. And so I'm with you on that. I think VanVleet.
This debate, and I remember this day. My brother was saying this, they're stuck in a rock and a hard place because it's like you want to compete, you want to continue to compete, but you can't pay Chris Paul that much money.
Exactly.
Like you
and again, I get it because they were winning. They went to the championship. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, we know we should be getting younger, but what's working is working right now.
Or you front load the contract and say, we're gonna give you this much, but you
got this time period.
All your money's coming in your first 2 years. I'll give you $60 million this year, and then it's gonna decrease to 20, and then it's gonna decrease to 10. But like, you can't give him that much money, and I think he's getting like what, 40 a year probably.
Yeah, he might even be close to Westbrook's contract.
Yeah, it's disgusting for someone that old, and he ain't the same. I'll tell you that. He ain't the Chris Paul.
I thought the Suns should have done this. I thought they waited a little bit too long.
They waited way too long.
Yeah. But we'll see, man. We'll see. That's it, man. Well, hey, man, appreciate it. Another one in the books.
Yes, sir.
We got some real solid content. Of course, it's hard to follow the episode that we had last week.
Yeah, it is.
But we have some great content on the NFL tonight.
He's making $28 million, just to let you know.
Who's that?
Chris Paul.
Okay.
$28 million this year.
That's still a lot for a guy that doesn't play a lot.
DeAndre making 30 and Devin Booker 33. Mikal Bridges 20. They gotta get off Chris Paul contract, man.
They have to.
Sherman making 10. Dang, man, I should have made my grandparents put me in more basketball camps. Got me a trainer, man. You got players that are making money that shouldn't be making money, man.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Well, anyway, man, it's been real. All the way from Mo City to New York. Thank Cole again for another slamming episode. Catch us next week, rather, and do it again. We're gonna try to have a guest for you next week. Try to get our first female guest on. If not, we're gonna keep rocking and rolling. We got some other guests that we want to continue to bless you all with this kind of contact. We want to thank the Most Serious family. We want to thank you all for tuning in with us with Debate with Bait podcast. Of course, you can stream this on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow Most Serious Entertainment on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe to Most Serious Entertainment on YouTube. Catch you next week on Debate with Bait podcast. And we're going to keep rocking and rolling. We out.